Hey, everybody. Welcome to your readings for the week. These are the readings for the last week of the year. Yes, the week of Christmas, beginning on Christmas, ending on New Year's Eve. Quite possibly one of the most stressful weeks of the whole entire year. There's so much going on between those two holidays in that week. Luckily the planets are going to treat us a little bit well for that, which is really good. Really nice. At least it should be treating most of us pretty well, which is nice. We're gonna see how that works out. This is a lot later than I normally record. I'm actually recording a lot later than I normally do. My day kind of went in different directions, but we're getting it done. That's what's important. But if I seem a little tired, that could be why. Usually I try to get these things done earlier so that I'm a little bit more, my brain anyways is a little bit more alert, which sounds weird because if you've watched any of my other recordings, my brain's never really all that quote unquote alert anymore. Just is what it is. I'm 45. I'm an Aquarian. Been a pot smoker for 30 years. It's gonna affect your brain, you know what I mean? Anyways, let's get to our horoscopes here. We're gonna start with Darcy, actually. And while we do that, I'm actually going to open up my list to make sure I don't miss anybody because I didn't exactly do that, even though I should have. Okay, so yes, we're gonna start with Darcy. Hi there, Darcy. I have good news, and I'm super stoked that I can say that next week that square between Uranus and Saturn is ending. And when I say it's ending, I mean it's ending for good. Yay! We won't be dealing with it anymore. In fact, Saturn is going to be moving out of Aquarius here in a couple of months. So, or I'm sorry, in a couple of weeks, actually, which being an Aquarius myself, I'm very happy about. A little bit of a break. It's going to be nice, and it's definitely a break for you as well because we won't have that lineup anymore. This week, on the other hand, the moon actually kicks off the week in Aquarius, and so it joins that square. So don't think that we were going to like end it easily, because obviously that was not going to be a thing. And focus is actually right on the cusp of self and the past, which is interesting. In terms of Uranus's focus is literally on the cusp of those two things. Taurus's focus is mainly focused on the past, but you sort of need to look back at the old Darcy in order to see where Darcy has progressed and the things that you've let go of and the things that you have started to do to make improvements. Self-improvement really is what it's all about in terms of what we're even here for in these meat suits, if that makes sense, at least in my view. And that's not a very easy thing. And then when you add that square between Saturn and the moon at the beginning of the week, the moon, of course, makes this emotional. Saturn and the moon are focused on support, your support system. Often this causes a case of you're reaching out for support and not getting it, which is always a place that is very difficult, I think, for all of us, really, in terms of we put out so much to other people. I mean, every individual, in this situation puts out so much of themselves to help other people. And there's a lot of people out there who have big hearts who it's just their way, it's just who they are, to be those helpful people to other people. And when you need support and you reach out for it and it's like not there and you don't get it, it's just so disappointing that you put that much energy and love and time into these relationships and they can't be bothered to give it back. That's one way of looking at it. Of course, there's always a million reasons why people can't be there to support you. And if you look back on your life, there were plenty of times where somebody that you loved needed support and there was nothing that you could do. It's just something that happens. And I mean, obviously, if this is an individual that is always doing this, they're only there when they need something, and you can basically piss off if it's not in their best interest. Well, then obviously that's not a good relationship. But most normal relationships, people just can't be there and be supportive every time. But I also look at this as, when I find myself in a situation like this, and I have a pretty big support system, and it's a very good support system, I would have to say, for the most part. But I still find myself in situations like this. And when I do, I tend to, of course, get mad about it. I should be honest. Okay. First, I get mad about it. I go through my whole spewing of this is bullshit and blah, blah, blah. And how dare they? And I'm never talking to them again and all this stuff. And then once I'm done with my little trip, which I give myself, a good 10 minutes or so, you got to cap the time on it. Otherwise, it'll just go on forever. I give myself that time. And then, it allows me a clear space to look at it for what it is. And instead of looking at it from my emotional space, I look at it for what it is. This is my lesson. And it's highly possible that nobody can help me with this lesson, that I just have to do it. And I've actually found myself this year in a lot of situations dealing with things that I don't normally deal with. I always pawn it off on somebody else, and I've been very lucky to be able to pawn it off on somebody else. And then this year, I've just found myself in a couple of situations where that was impossible. I had to put my big girl panties on and deal with it, whether I liked the situation or not, because it had to be done. And that is not a comfortable place to be. But the best growth and learning comes from those extremely uncomfortable places. And that's really the good thing that comes out of difficult situations. I kind of feel like in some cases for you, the word patterns is coming up a lot around you. And so this could have a lot to do with noticing patterns in certain relationships in order to be aware of how the relationship really is, not the way you want to see it or the way you hoped it would be eventually, but the way that it really is, so that you can communicate about that, so you can try and make changes in the relationship or lay down boundaries in the relationship. And I see at least two relationships around you where that is important, if that makes sense. So that's definitely something that I see coming up around that. The other thing that I'm picking up is it's sort of funny, actually. I almost see you being invited to a whole bunch of different places on the same day. So like maybe being invited to several different New Year's parties, and in the end just saying, you know what, I don't really actually want to go to any of them, and just declining all of them. It's like you can't make a decision on which way to go. So you just go, you know what, I'm just going to stay home and go to sleep. Screw it. I'm going to sleep away the end of the year and wake up next year. So it's kind of funny to me. I don't see any guilt. I don't see any nothing. It's just, this is what I'm going to do, because this is what I feel I need to do for me. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So that's what I have for you, Darcy. And we're going to move on to Connie. Hi, Connie. That puppy is adorable, by the way. First of all, I'll have to say. Second of all, we've got Christmas, and then we end with New Year's Eve. So probably the single most stressful week of the whole entire year. In my opinion, I'm glad that we're here. So we can be over with it and move on with our lives. Christmas is annoying in many cases. I know you're going to go be with your family on Christmas. First thing I see is you laughing, like you're getting the giggles, if that makes sense. I see everybody laughing, which is a good thing. That's the first thing that comes to me. But there's just something that is coming up that's giving you the giggles. And it's sort of, it's not the same thing, but it reminds me of the time you told me the story about your grandson and the dog and the dog at your son's house. And just laughing because you can't do anything else because it's hilarious and he's laughing, and it's like when somebody else starts laughing you can't stop laughing. And I like that. I like seeing this vision of all this laughter. And I want to say that the day seems to be predominantly filled with that, but there probably will be one or two things that will be slightly triggering, annoying, things that you don't like, things that create a negative emotional response rather than a positive one, but the positive outweighs the negative. And it really gives you a fantastic opportunity of sort of focusing on one or the other to see how it impacts the way you feel overall, if that makes sense. So that's one thing. I think it's going to be a very good day. I really do. I think you're going to enjoy yourself for sure. I kind of feel that everybody will to a certain extent, and I kind of think that everybody needs that. The other thing that I'm picking up for this week is I see things being put in order, so I'm not sure if that's reorganizing spaces or things like that. Not like on a major scale here, but just little stuff. It's almost like there's a part of me that says, why would you even do this? But then again, I could answer that question because we just do. It's almost like I'm seeing you moving things from one place to another. It's just like, I don't want this stuff to be in this drawer anymore. It makes sense to be in the drawer that's over there on the other side of the kitchen, kind of a thing. Just sort of lightly moving things around a little bit, or not even emptying the drawer and moving it, but looking at the contents and thinking these actually don't go here. They go, it makes more sense if we put them over here, kind of a thing. I see some of that mainly to keep you busy, because I don't see a lot of appointments, obviously, but I feel like doing this is sort of a motivational thing for you as well, because you don't have anything on your schedule. I have a hard time with this. If there's nothing on my schedule, I just feel very unmotivated to do anything because it's not set in stone, right? And so by doing this, you're sort of keeping the energetic momentum going of having to get up and do something. And then that way you're not like, it's not so difficult for you to get up and get going and get back to work when you do have to get back to work. I don't see you not having appointments next week. So I'm not seeing an incredibly jam-packed full week necessarily, but I do see you going back to work, at least 2 or 3 appointments. So enjoy your time off. Because let's face it, we don't know when you're going to get it again, to be honest with you. That's what I have for you this week. Moving on to Jenny, we have nothing going on in Leo. To start off, focus is on your day-to-day schedule. I do see you taking some time to make sure you're set and ready to go for the new year. I see a couple of I'm gonna call it finishing up. I don't know if it's finishing up projects or if it's finishing up certifications. It's finishing up a couple of things that need to be finished up before the end of the year. I don't see like a mad dash to do anything. I mean, I'm sure you're busy, but it's not a mad dash to get it done kind of an energy is what I'm picking up. It's more a very sort of purposeful, check everything off the list, uh make sure it's all done so I can move into next year as free of 2022 if possible. I mean, I see a couple of clients that may not be finished by the end of the year, if whatever that means. But for the most part, I feel this is actually a thing for you. The last week of the year is you just, you make sure that everything that you started in 2023 is done. And I don't really see it just as being at work, or maybe it is predominantly at work, and maybe you've been thinking about implementing that into your home also. We all have that problem. Again, if you're not don't have a schedule, you're not motivated. It's, for me, once the schedule is over, I'm like, ugh, like I'm done for like 5 hours. Not saying that you do that yourself, um but we do slow down, and then those things are like, yeah, I really want to get to it, but it's really not important right now. It might not be a bad idea to actually come up with a plan or set some goals on when you want to get these things done, so that it sort of gives you a time frame and a time limit. That way they're not being pushed to the back burner all the way, and you can sort of come up with a schedule of getting these things finished, that aren't necessarily things that have a deadline, I guess, is what I mean by that. The other thing that I'm picking up for you this week is this is um outside of making sure that everything is finished. I see this as being a very social week for you anyway. So it's very busy. There's a lot of kid stuff, there's a lot of adult stuff, there's just a lot of stuff, almost an exhausting amount, if that makes sense. And if you have to decline one or two things, I know you don't want to, but it might be necessary, honestly. But it all seems like a lot of fun also. So it's not that you have to decline because you don't it's not going to be a good time. It's just you can't overexert yourself, and that's what I'm concerned about, is that you wind up on Sunday next week just completely drained. Not saying that I see you going out and getting drunk and whooping it up for the new year, but it's highly possible. You never know. The point is, you don't want to overdo it. And, sometimes we don't mean to overdo it and then it just happens. Just be aware of that. We'll put it that way. I'm not just saying overdoing it with drinking. I'm saying overdoing it with taking on or trying to be in too many places at the same time, if that makes sense. Like if it's making you crazy on how you're going to do it, you got to cut some things out. It's unfortunately just how that works. So, and that is what I have for you, my dear. Enjoy your busy week of fun. So, I mean, it just seems like a lot of fun anyway. Moving on to Linda, nothing going on in Virgo this week. And actually we're kind of in a cool place at the beginning of the week, because Virgo is pretty much in between focuses for the first few days until we get to about the end of the year, and then it moves to focusing on your day-to-day schedule. And to me, when a sign is in between houses and there's really nothing to focus on, you kind of get to choose. I always look at that as what they call a wild card. You kind of get to choose on what you want to focus on. I honestly see for you wrapping things up from this year, getting yourself situated and ready for next year. I see your whole entire day planner just is already full for most of the year already. I don't know if you saw the horoscopes a couple of weeks ago, but I use you and your day planner as an analogy for Virgos. And so if you didn't see it, then I did that, yes. And if you did see it, I hope you realize that I was talking about you. And yes, it really literally already looks full for the most part for next year. And I still see you trying to fit things in. I have to tell you first off that one of the first things that I'm being told is to tell you anyways is you keep telling yourself that you can't keep the same pace as you used to, but you're trying to keep the same pace as you used to, if that makes sense. And you are in danger of burning yourself out. So when you're setting up your schedule for this year, make sure you don't go too heavy. We'll just put it that way. I'm almost positive you already did. If there's a way that you can change that around, that would be good. But it is very important for your health, I feel, especially. You have gone through some health issues lately, lots of testing, lots of things that are things that were already present, but they're sort of coming back up again. These are all signs that you're going too far and your body needs rest and you're kind of pushing it beyond its limits, kind of a thing. And if you don't listen to those little warnings, then you get a much bigger warning that takes a lot more time to get through, and it also takes a lot more time away from you working and getting things done. So better to be safe than sorry. That's kind of, honestly, that's how I've learned to look at it. Because I've learned multiple times by getting sick that I'm not listening to my body. I'm not listening to my guides. And I really feel that listening to your body is important. When you're tired, you should rest. When you can't, don't. As much as I can. And yes, I run a business, and yes, I have to make money, but none of that's going to happen if I am sick either. So it's also better for you in the long run financially if you just take care of yourself as you do, and make sure you put plenty of rest time in there. So that is what I have for you, Linda. Just be aware of that in terms of when you're creating your schedule. And I'm also being told to tell you that it's really important to get some playtime in. Playtime is important. Very, very, very important. So that's what I have for you. Moving on to Matalyn, my Maddie Boo. So there is nothing in Virgo this week. We are going into a Mercury retrograde this week, and this isn't something necessarily that I've put into everybody's reading, but I don't know how much you know about it, so I'm going to tell you. Mercury goes retrograde on Thursday. And now all the planets go retrograde except for the sun and the moon. Mercury goes retrograde like 3 times a year, which is why you've probably heard of it. Me talking about it or your mom talking about it. You've probably heard about it more so than ever hearing about any other planet going retrograde. But you probably have never heard of any other planet going retrograde. They all do, though. It's just that Mercury creates so many problems and so many complications. And Mercury is going retrograde in Capricorn. And so what happens is it causes delays, it causes miscommunications, you having a conversation with somebody, they're completely not understanding what you're saying, and all of a sudden they just emotionally react, and you're standing there going, I just asked for milk. I don't know what all this is. That kind of stuff happens during Mercury retrograde every single time. So you have to have a little bit of patience. This year, they were all in earth signs, and next year they will continue to all be in earth signs. So there will be another Virgo Mercury retrograde, and the last Virgo retrograde was a big itch from hell, from literal the bowels of hell. Okay, it was awful, and I hated it, and I'm not looking forward to going through it again. Hopefully, it's a little bit better for us next time. You've got no planets that are interacting with, well, there's no planets, period. So there's obviously no planets interacting with that Mercury retrograde in any way. But you do have to have a little bit more patience than normal because this kind of dumb stuff just happens. Either people are misunderstanding each other, delays are taking place. Somebody said your shipment was going to be there today, and then at the end of the day, they go just, pardon me, just kidding, it's next Wednesday. It just happens. And when I say having a little bit more patience, knowing that, oh, Mercury's retrograde and this kind of stuff happens all the time helps me to stay out of that. This is fucking bullshit. And I can't believe that my package is going to be delayed another week place, because honestly, that's just energy going in a direction that is wasteful and useless. And you can't do anything about it. Why get all pissed off? That's where I try to go. Is, do I always take that route? Absolutely not. But I'm always exhausted when I don't. So there you go with that. For you, I want to say 2 things. One, if your car needs any kind of maintenance or something's coming up or their light just comes on or whatever, especially during Mercury retrograde time, you take that car in and you get it fixed right away. If you don't, Mercury retrograde times have a way of exasperating that problem, and you want to avoid that too. And the car is coming up for a reason. It's not just an example. If something comes up that needs to be looked at, take it in and get it looked at. Don't dawdle. Don't put it off till next week when you get money and when you get more money, or especially don't, well, I'd rather buy weed this week. I'll do it next week. Definitely don't do that. That is a lesson you don't want to learn the hard way. Okay. If you choose to learn the hard way, by all means, go right ahead. You can, but take my advice. Having been there already, don't put that off. Okay. The other thing that I do see possibly happening is miscommunications between you and your boyfriend may come up also. Not in any bad way necessarily, but a lot of times couples will have a conversation, and let's say you're talking to him and he just seems like he's irritable, and you're like, is it me? And he's like, no. But then like he says something to you in an irritated tone, and then you take that as you. And if you had actually not asked, is it me, but just asked, is everything okay? Is something bothering you? Do you need to talk about something? Maybe he has something that he needs to get off his chest, and then you can avoid that whole feeling like he's just passively aggressively being mean to you, if that makes sense. That kind of stuff happens all the time, by the way, in relationships. And the more the more progressive and the more direct you handle them, the easier it is to actually get through the process, if that makes sense. The biggest problem with all relationships, all of them, is that they do not communicate with each other. And I feel that you're a very good communicator. You've been raised around people that communicate about their feelings, whether hit or miss there, of course, not everybody's perfect, but for the most part, people are very vocal about how they feel, and which in some cases is good, but you have to also communicate in the right way. So I don't want to use your mom as an example, but your mom is such a wonderful and direct person. The problem is that I think for most people, not me, because I can see where she's coming from, but for a lot of people, it feels like she's just stabbing you with information, and it's like an attack because there's so much energy that behind it, right? And it's really easy to see that as her telling you what to do or trying to control you, or even just beating it into you, and it's hard for you to receive the information. If she gave the information in a different way, a more calm way, a more let's sit down, relax, let's just have a quiet little chit chat, it might be easier. And that's actually the best example I can give you in terms of what you've seen around you. And I have seen that reaction with your mom with other people too. If you have that problem, it's not just you, there are other people. I think that the only reason that I can understand where she's coming from is because I am like that very, very much. We're very similar. That's why your mom and I clicked so well, is that in many ways we're very similar, but I don't continue to have the ridiculous amount of energy that your mother still does. Mine is lower. I have to ration it to only use it for things that are necessary these days. At least that's how I feel. Of course, she raised one child and I raised three crazy boys. So what are you gonna do? Anyways, those types of situations come up when you are looking at somebody having a bad day and they bark at you. It may not be directed at you. You have a right to say, I don't appreciate being talked to in that tone. Can you please change the tone? And I do understand if you're having a bad day. I'm willing to talk about it. I'm here to talk about it if you want to. You can be there and in order to listen, to help them get through it. But no, you absolutely don't have to be a punching bag for somebody every time they're having a bad day either. There's where the line is there. So anywho, that's what I have for you, darling. Love you. If you party on New Year's Eve, you best do it safely, or Auntie Melissa will come beat your ass. Okay? And hug and kiss it a lot, but don't beat your ass. All right. Moving on to Theresa. What do we got going on here? Focus is on relationships for Libra, although Ceres begins her influence in your sign this week, and her focus is on your day-to-day schedule. It's a kind of interesting, actually, for a couple of reasons. Coffee. It's 6 o'clock in the evening. How I roll. Couple of different things. Ceres is known as the Great Mother, so she has a very maternal and a very nurturing influence over your sign. And when we're nurturing your schedule, is actually kind of interesting, especially for a Libra and a Libra woman. I feel that as you're heading to this point at the end of the year, lots of things have happened this year. You have a whole new year. We don't know what's going to come of that. We're hopeful that it's good, of course. I feel like it's important for you to make sure that your schedule is as full of things that nurture you as possible. Time with your family, your time out in nature, your time with your grandbaby, time for yourself. It's also very important to nurture yourself. Your son is coming to me and he's saying that mom always took care of everybody first. And not to say that he's saying that you don't take care of yourself or that you don't practice self-care, because I feel that you do. But you'll throw that self-care right out the window if somebody needs you, which is a beautiful thing. But sometimes you just need to take care of you. And when it's not the end of the world, you should put you first. If the person can wait, you should put you first. And so I'm looking at incorporating, making sure you are aware of that and incorporating that into your year. That makes sense. I'm also being shown actually a pretty good amount of time off this week. I know that part of that is the holidays. But I kind of feel like there's some extra days too, if that makes sense. So I see you working, but very light. Which gives you plenty of time for nurturing things. I'm also being told to tell you that it's really important to nurture some of those ideas that you've been having. Don't brush them off as, they're stupid or they're never going to work or I never have time for them. The ideas are coming to you for a reason, so don't brush them off, is what they're saying. And that's what I have for you, my dear. Have a wonderful holiday, a very safe holiday, which I know you will. And Jake is showing me, my dad used to have this stuffed monkey with really long arms and legs that velcroed, so you could velcro the monkey's arms around your neck and just have this little stuffed monkey hanging off your neck. And that's what he's saying, he's like that monkey on your neck. You don't have to miss him because he's that monkey. I mean, he's literally hanging off you and kicking his legs and kicking his feet like a little kid. It's adorable. And that's what I have for you, Theresa. I am going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we will finish up the rest of the readings. Okay, moving on to Regina. Focus is on relationships for Libra. Focus is on finances for Scorpio. I think we've already talked a lot about your relationship with your finances. Let's just not beat a dead dog, okay, on that. Couple of things are coming up for this week. One, Christmas, New Year's. Very stressful week, especially with work, especially with family issues. In all honesty, I really feel that this is not an easy time for you, a time of the year for you, period. And it's almost like I totally understand how you feel. It's almost like it's a lot of work, but not a lot of fun these days, if that makes sense. Couple of things come up around this for you. One, it's really important that you don't spend your time focused on what you hate about it or what you don't like about it. It sort of sucks you into a depression, if that makes sense. And we want to try to avoid that. If it's about those that have passed on and they're no longer with you, obviously you want to not avoid them. They pop into your head for a reason, and they tend to do this a lot around the holidays also, especially if they were a very important part of the holiday at one time. We do want to give them space, but not spend all of our time focused on the past and what we don't have anymore, if that makes sense. I think that it would definitely be a good idea this week to try and focus your mind on things that give you joy, things that you enjoy doing as much as possible, not things that you'd like to do that you can't do for a million reasons. We all have those. That doesn't help the situation. You're looking for something that you already have, that you know you enjoy doing, even if it's something that maybe you did with these people that are no longer with you, if that makes sense. So baking, doesn't matter if you don't have a lot of people to bake for, there's always neighbors that might like cookies or something like that. Playing in the kitchen, different things like that. If you can focus more on the positives than the negatives, it will make a huge difference in the long run. And I kind of feel like the last couple of weeks of the year, this happens. It's happened more than once. I'm not gonna say it happens a lot, but it's definitely happened more than once. And in some cases in the past, it was really hard to kick that. And I don't think this season helps either, because I do get a little bit of that seasonal depression disorder type of a thing as well. I honestly feel like I go into like some sort of weird energetic hibernation in the winter time. I'm actually, up and alert and doing stuff, but I just, it's like I don't feel like I'm as a part of it in the wintertime as I do any other time of the year. It's kind of weird. But I think that's probably what that stems from also. I do see a surprise, some good news, a visitor, a call from somebody, a reconnection from somebody that you haven't talked to in a while, that turns out to be really good. So there's something to counteract all of that, that other stuff too. It gets hard, and the older you get and the more people you lose, it gets harder. Every year gets harder. This pandemic recently, there's just been so many more people that have been lost that never should have, in my experience. And I sort of struggle with not wanting to do it and just wishing it would go away, and yet feeling guilty about feeling that way, because I shouldn't feel that way. And I think that a lot of us go through that, especially the older that we get. I think we go through that a lot more. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up for having deep feelings. I mean, that's what Scorpios really are all about, and Libras too, to a certain extent. And you have a little bit of both. So it can be a wonderful thing, and sometimes it can make things a lot more difficult. And the key here is to not sink into something that just you don't want to sink into again, if that makes sense. So that's what I have for you, plus 100 hugs and kisses, because I feel that you deserve them. We'll just put it that way. Moving on to Theresa Sheppard. Hello there, Theresa. Focus is on finances this week. I see a lot of things for you, and I'm not surprised because you've always got so many things going on. But in terms of finances, I do see you, if not setting up some financial goals, you're just ticking off the boxes and making sure everything is set up the way you want it to. Which is good, not just for goals in terms of making money, but you know, you want to have this much money in this account by this time, you want to have this paid off by this time, you want to have this replaced by this time, kind of a thing. So it's not just about bringing in the money, but it's about allocating it to the places that really need it, and in some cases those things that you've had to put off for a while also. I am also seeing at this particular point the possibility of, I'm being told to tell you, doubling your workload, which, well, it seems kind of scary to me because you already work a whole lot. Honestly, but I do see that as a possibility, not this week, but you looking at the possibility of that being something that's going to happen here in the next few months. It could even be a temporary thing, like you're taking over for somebody else for a couple of weeks and that doubles your workload. So it's not necessarily in any way, shape, or form meaning that you're doubling your workload forever. It's possible, but I kind of see this as more of a short-term temporary thing, if that makes sense. And I don't see a lot of work this week. So if you do have that coming, it's a really good idea to take some rest and regroup time, even though I see you running and doing stuff at home too, if that makes sense. Time with your mom, time with the kids, you know, go and get this taken care of, go and get that taken care of, make sure this is clean, etc., etc., etc. You know, you always are moving and running and doing your thing, and I love that you do that. I want to make sure that you are decompressing while you're doing all that. Outside of all of that, that's really all I have. I don't really see a whole lot going on this week. Mercury is going retrograde this week. That's something that you definitely want to be aware of. And make sure that you you know, have that little bit extra patience for all the delays that take place and miscommunications that happen. In fact, I think you might even experience a miscommunication right off the bat on Thursday when it goes retrograde. So be prepared for that also. That's all I have for you. And I'm going to move on to Amanda. Here come the Sagittarians. Here they come. Here they come. I think that was a Pink Floyd song. I think that came from a Pink Floyd song. Yes, it did come from a Pink Floyd song. Very last week of the year. This is going to be a busy week for you. Okay. I already see like a whole bunch of stuff, and it's not work related stuff. This is like your week long party week, with a little bit of witchy intention work, for lack of a better way of saying it. I just see you sort of, I don't even know how to put it. There's candles and there's sage and there's other stuff. It's not working a spell, but it's sort of trying to put energy into a specific direction, intentions for the new year, things like that. You know what it is. I'm seeing you doing that, because of course we're ending this week with the end of the year period. So with that being said, there's a little bit of that. Outside of that, it's all party week basically, and one thing after another, including just time with you and the girls and doing goofy stuff and really just having a wonderful time. In fact, you may have had other plans that didn't exactly fall through the way you wanted to, and got this golden opportunity for it to just be you and the girls doing something fun together. I do see a lot of silliness, but I think that with you and your girls, there's always a lot of silliness because silliness is wonderful. And it's honestly, to me, the best gift you can give your kids is that safe place to be silly and with a mother who is not afraid to be silly with them. That's just the greatest thing that you can give them. Which you give them a lot, and I see opportunities coming up this week for sure. I mean, obviously they're off of school this week. Makes total sense. But I also see some time in there too, just for you, just quiet time. I see you writing a lot in a journal. Focus is on long-term goals, so that is a bit of it, but I feel like you've been doing a lot of work on that up until now. This week is just kind of I've got all the work done, I know what I need to do, but before I do all that, it's time to just sort of let go and just have a blast, right? Because you need that every now and then. And you being a Sagittarius really do have an understanding of that, which is awesome. So embrace the what out of that. It looks like tons and tons of fun. So that is what I have for you. And I'm going to move on to Sheri, my good friend Sheri. Hi, Sheri. Focuses on long-term goals this week. No planets in Sagittarius, which is awful nice. I mean, it's fun to have planets in your sign, but sometimes it's not fun to have planets in your sign. I guess it really just depends on where all the other planets are and whether or not that's fun or not. Right now it's just not as fun as it could be, unfortunately. But focuses on long-term goals, and there's a little bit of an element of finances in there. I do see in some cases you taking the time to just sit down and kind of come up with where you are now financially, where you want to be in a year financially. I know it seems like a lot of work, but that's how you progress. If you float along, obviously nothing happens, right? We've kind of proven that one once or twice or 30 times now, every single year for the last 30 years. So I do see an element of that, or at least discussions about that. But I also see a lot of family time, a lot of different people coming in and out. I mean, not in and out, but you know what I mean. Families coming in, visitations, people you don't necessarily see all the time, things like that. And I do see quite a lot of that as well. So there's there's a situation that I do see coming up. A lot of people around. It's a prime Sheri situation to have to say something. But in this particular case, you know for a fact that that's not a good idea, and you're going to have to work pretty hard to keep your mouth shut and just not say what you want to say, because it's not going to be a good idea. And to be honest with you, in this particular case, it's wasted energy anyways to even try. This isn't around Matt, this isn't around Maddie. It's almost like stupid shit from a long time ago coming up that doesn't even mean anything anymore. I mean, it's insignificant. It's not something that affects your life and you have to have an opinion on it. It's more of a, if the two of us were sitting together, we'd be talking shit. That's all I gotta say. It's not worth your time to say anything, even though it's killing you not to, and I totally get it. But that's part of the lesson, fortunately. And that's how it's just not a good idea. Okay, it would just be a classic stirring the pot and making the whole situation worse than it really needs to be. Even if you're trying to be helpful, it's still not going to work. It's not going to be taken the way you intend it to be taken, and it never has. Okay, we're just going to put that out there as well. So that's one thing. Let it be the entertaining stupidity that it is, and not spend too much time focused on the fact that it's a really easy fix if they just listen. Okay, that's the problem. They never do. Nobody wants an easy fix. Then again, we have both had people come up to us and tell us this is a really easy fix, and we go, no, it's okay, we're gonna do it the hard way because it's more fun that way. Okay, we all do it, right? You can't point the finger, you're gonna have 2 3 more pointed back at you, right? Anyways, you'll have to tell me all about it because it sounds really funny, I have to say. Could be a real knee slapper. So I do see that, but yeah, I do see a lot of socializing, a lot of family, normal routines being disrupted by a lot of family, but it's kind of okay at the same time, being the time of year that it is. I don't see a lot of drama happening. It's actually kind of it's a week to enjoy, where a lot of the stressful things that have been happening are not as present as they have been, and it gives you a chance to just kind of get out and enjoy people, even if they're dumb. That's all I have for you. Oh, I'm cracking myself up. Okay, moving on to Peg. Hi, Peg. Focus is on long-term goals with a bit of an element of finances there. I do see you, of course, taking the time to sort of map out your financial goals a little bit for the year, specifically working on your budget for the upcoming month also, but there is an element of working on your budget for the year as well. I do see some goals or plans or ideas or things that you would like to do this year, and it's a really good idea to sit down and map out a plan as to how to get there. It'll make it an easier process to get there. It also keeps it from going in the back of your mind where months go by and you never do anything about it. So I do see you kind of working on that this week. It is right in between. We're starting off the week with Christmas, ending with New Year's Eve. So I mean, there's family time there too as well. And I don't see any issues arising with that, or any discomfort arising with that or anything like that. Maybe the normal annoying things, that pop up, here and there, but nothing outside of the ordinary, I guess. Or nothing extraordinary. Um, I see like a potential meeting with somebody that does have to do with business. Not sure if this has to do with a workspace or a partnership or a book or something along those lines. But I see the meeting taking place sometime this week. I kind of feel like you're going to walk away from the meeting not really feeling it, not really feeling like you nailed it, or not even really feeling good about it. It's almost like by the end of the meeting, you're just ready to almost swear off the whole thing because it just didn't seem to work out. But I feel a few weeks going by and that meeting sort of either happening again or a reconnection, and it's a totally different vibe. And part of that is that Mercury is going retrograde on Thursday, and for 3 weeks, like it always does. And so I do have a feeling that that has something to do with it. There's either miscommunications there, or this person, I get it's a she, is just having a bad day. So it doesn't really feel like it went well, but that's not necessarily the case, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind if that comes up. And also to be very careful if you're traveling. If you're traveling to, to see different people for the holiday, and I'm not really looking at the end of the week around New Year's, more so around Christmas time. Um, I'm just gonna say be extra cautious. And not necessarily because I'm picking up that anything's gonna happen, but more so that um it's the day, it's Christmas, it's probably the weather, it's probably the darkness, it's, it gets dark so early. There's just so many, no, so many elements of things that could go wrong. It's just better to take extra precautions, I guess. So that's what I have for you, Peg. And finally, moving on to Mama Sheri, focuses on long-term goals this week. And I kind of do see you getting a little bit excited about the future. The future in terms of your work. Um, Getting excited about getting back into a normal routine, a normal schedule. Getting more excited about getting new clients, things like that. I just feel that this is the closest that you've been in a long time to really feeling like you're ready to get back into it, like you're ready to get back into the norm, if that makes sense. And so I see a lot of energy and a lot of excitement going into planning and doing those things, if that makes sense. So that's one thing. I have a kitty at the door wanting me to open the door. Come on, come on. Mama's still working. Come on. Oh my God. I have a kitty that wants to stand in the doorway. So anyways, that's one thing that I have. The other thing that I am picking up for you this week is, I mean, I don't see anything out of the ordinary necessarily. You have, I want to say that Christmas Day is going to be a great day for you in terms of um just the experiences that you're having, phone calls with your grandkids, couple of surprise presents come to mind that you weren't expecting, different things like that. It's going to be a really good day for you. New Year's, I don't even think you're going to stay up till midnight. I don't think so. I think you're going to go to sleep when you want to go to sleep. It's really not that big of a deal. It is what it is. It's just a new year. The big deal about it is preparing yourself and preparing your schedule. And I just feel like you're really working to get things together and situated in a way that it just you can get that flow back. And I think that that's been such a struggle for me too, is finding my flow, finding myself feeling like I belong there again. It's just, for whatever reason, it's just been so hard to find that, if that makes sense. And I feel like that's one of the things that you're working towards as well. So very good week. I don't see anything coming up that's major or bad or anything like that. I see you having a lot of fun. I see you really excited and getting back into things, and maybe even coming up with some new ideas also, which is really cool. So that's what I have for you, Sheri, and that's what I have for everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out and being on the list. If you would like to be on the list, click the link below and follow the instructions to find out how you could be on the list to get a reading every single week. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. This concludes our last readings for the year. So I guess I'll be seeing you guys next year. Have a great week, everybody, and enjoy your holidays safely.